Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new live stream, the post-debate live stream. I know I said we'd go live at 120 likes, but you have 200 people in chat. I'm ready. I saw the debate. I saw a great portion of the Tucker-Trump interview as well, and we're going to be touching on both, but mainly the debate. And we're going to dive into it. We're going to start off right now, actually, where we have a lot to talk about, and it is insane. It is absolutely insane what we had to deal with. That is your Republican Party. Without Donald Trump, folks, that is your Republican Party. That is the post-Trump party that we're seeing here. That is how weak the Republican bench is. So much so to the point where Donald Trump, he goes on Tucker Carlson on Twitter, not on a major network, not on Fox News, and he gets Super Bowl numbers in an hour. He gets 84 million views. The debate did not even get that. The debate on Rumble, which allegedly bots 2x and takes into account, previous viewers to the live stream, whatever. How many views did they get? They got like not even a million on the official stream. And Trump got 84 million. Of course, not all of those watched the entire interview, but it doesn't matter. A great portion of them did, and Trump got out there and had better ratings than the Republican debate. And we're going to talk about the debate. We're going to get into it. I think Vivek Ramaswamy, a lot of people are talking about him. And I think that while, he started off a little goofy at times, but you know what? He said the right things that actually mattered. He's not somebody like the rest of the people on that stage. He's not somebody who's a bought and paid for politician. When Chris Christie tried to eat him on the debate stage, Vivek was the one cooking. He was cooking and harpooning the whale. He was going out there and he said, oh, well, if I'm Obama, you're going to come hug me, which is exactly what I was thinking in my head. And then when he said that, I was just dying because it was so true. And then he killed it on foreign policy. And we'll get into all of it. But I wanted to start off with the initial beginning of the debate because they talk about how we are going to relate as a party to the average working man. They use the song Rich Men of North Richmond, which is the #1 song in the country right now, by this guy in the middle of West Virginia, this working class white guy, as the kind of basis for what kind of voter they need to appeal to, and which they're not really wrong. That is your average voter that may not have voted before, but turned out for Trump in 2016, likely voted for him in 2020 as well. That's how you're going to reach him. What do these people talk about? What does DeSantis go out there and talk about? What does Chris Christie talk about? Oh, well, we're going to cut taxes and we're going to lower the debt. And it's like, that's not what exactly is a message that's going to win over voters. You've tried that how many times? Does it work? No, it does not work. And again, what vision are you giving the country? I'm not saying don't lower taxes or don't have a tax code that works for everybody, especially the middle class. I'm not saying that having debt is a good thing. It's not. We're probably going to be screwed regardless of who's in power, regardless of what's going on that front. Absolutely, the debt is a big problem. I'm not saying that it's not, but still, you're trying to win over these voters here in the Republican Party, and you're also trying to get out voters in a general election. You yammering on about the debt for the 95th time is not going to move the needle. It's not good messaging. We've heard that messaging time and time again. It doesn't matter. And people want to know how we can restore the American dream. That's what people want to know. I don't want to hear about taxes and debt. I want to hear about how you are going to make this country what it used to be. Restore the American dream, restore stability, restore faith in these institutions that have been infiltrated by these crazy people on the left for decades upon decades. How are you going to fix the national decline? Not just use the word national decline and then yammer on about the debt or taxes like whatever Ron DeSantis did there. Or talk about debt like you saw a lot of other people on the stage do, like Pence and Chris Christie. That was the first big question that was asked in the debate. And it's like, this is not something that's really going to resonate with a lot of people. This is poor messaging. This is the Republican Party before Donald Trump came along. They didn't mention him a whole lot for a reason. They kind of wanted to rebrand. That's the pivot. That's what they try to do. But in reality, it doesn't matter. That's the JV squad. Trump goes on Tucker, and we could refresh. I bet it's even higher now. 86 million views. That's a quarter of the country's population. That's more people than the amount of voting public that even voted for Donald Trump. And like I said, even if you want to say that that metric isn't fully accurate or people just scroll past it and don't fully watch the whole thing, it doesn't matter. He's reaching millions upon millions of people that did watch the full thing through. And I think that we talk about winners and losers. I put that in the headline for this stream. I think that inevitably makes Donald Trump the number one winner of the debate. And I could talk about what Trump said on Tucker Carlson. I think it's stuff that we know. Obviously, he's said a lot of the things before, but he talked about how these people in charge currently hate our country. They want to flood the border with illegal aliens. They want to get involved overseas. And most of what he was talking about, he was focusing on how you're going to beat Biden, focusing on 2024. Yeah, there were questions about the indictments. He talked a little bit about 2020. Tucker Carlson kind of primed that. I didn't like the Epstein answer. I will say that. I think Donald Trump kind of not exactly hit the nail on the head with the Epstein question, because we all know what happened there. But either way, he kind of left it a little open to the point where a lot of people in power, a lot of politicians, they're not necessarily going to do that. A lot of these career politicians, I will say. So it is what it is. It's not ideal from Donald Trump on that front, but I'm not going to sit here and cry about it for 20 minutes. So on top of that, looking at the other things that were talked about, let's talk about Ron DeSantis, because Vivek actually went on offense against DeSantis early on. Because what he did is he said, because DeSantis said something about the climate, and it was kind of open-ended. And that's another thing DeSantis, and I'm not even like trying to attack him. He didn't have the worst performance overall, but it was far from the greatest, and it's not going to move the needle in his favor. But still, when the climate issue came up, he gave this open-ended, like obviously pre-tested type of thing. And he's done this, the debate prep. He has memorized every single thing he said. That's why he didn't interject a whole lot, because he was told not to. He was told to repeat the same things off the note cards, and that hasn't been working for him so far. I don't know why his campaign thinks that it would work for him this time around. But nevertheless, Vivek chimes in and he says, you're a enough with career politicians just reading off their pre-written statements. Let me tell you the truth about this. And whether you agree with Vivek on everything or not, I don't even agree with him on everything. I think he's too liberal on immigration. I think his trade policy is very screwed up. It's probably one of the weakest. But in terms of foreign policy, I think he's the greatest, arguably. I think that on a lot of things, he gets it. On some things, he's not quite there yet. But that's beside the point. It's good to see somebody out there that's not a part of the political class that's going on the offensive and attacking all of these career politicians. I said he would be the stand-in for Trump, whether he's perfect or not. He went out there, and that's exactly what he did. And he's also a winner from the debate stage. And then you have Chris Christie, who is just like gross and goes out there. He acts like Cenk Uygur. If Cenk Uygur was a Republican, he acts the same exact way. He has the same personality. He goes out there. He's like, oh, guys, we're going to do this. This is wrong. And he's like acting like he's always about to like cry. He's sweating. He's like 500 pounds still, despite having 35,000 lap band surgeries. It hasn't really moved the needle for him necessarily, but still, he's going out there. Remember him in 2016. He was like trying to be this like attack dog, obese attack dog. And he's trying that again, except it's like more repulsive now than it was before. And Vivek clapped back at him. He clapped back at Pence. Pence was kind of a little off-putting, a little creepy at times, as he usually is. Some people in the DeSantis camp are praising him because they know DeSantis didn't move the needle, so they're looking for a new guy to go to. Tim Scott, his performance wasn't exactly stellar, but Mike Pence is out there, and a lot of people are saying that he kind of rose up in his stock. And by the way, we're going to get to super chats. You guys can feel free to send them in. We're going to get to all of them eventually, but we're going to review the debate first. But we will get to all your questions, all your comments momentarily. And on top of that, you look at the Nikki Haley stuff. She's so fake. She's fake. She goes out there on foreign policy. She's talking about how we need to give more foreign aid to Ukraine, more foreign aid to all these other countries that aren't exactly having our best interest in mind, and then she's going out there and attacking Vivek for not having foreign policy experience. I'll take somebody with zero or negative experience over her awful experience, and every single war she's shilled for has caused us to just, as a nation, lose in every way possible. Lose financially, lose people, lose resources, and you're losing your mind if you support Nikki Haley's foreign policy at this point as well. And that's true. And you're looking at it, it's America last is exactly what it is. They hated Vivek because Vivek, even though I don't think his immigration policy is America first or his trade policy is, his foreign policy is absolutely America first, especially rhetorically speaking. And because you have somebody out there that's against the grain on that front, they are wasting their time and energy just going in at him, attacking him because he's the disruptor on the stage, which is what Trump would have been if he was there. But when you're 42 points ahead of the field, why join the JV squad? Why debate these people? I said I wanted him to debate back in April. That's true, but he was leading DeSantis by like 15 to 20. And DeSantis has lost over half of his support since then. After this debate, I think he's going to lose more support because the people that were behind him, maybe because they wanted a little bit of a change from Donald Trump, even though they'll likely come home at the end of the day, how are they going to support this guy who's so low energy and he can't move the needle? Why? Because, oh, I heard this thing he did in Florida. It's like people, even in the establishment side of things, they don't want somebody that's this boring, this uncharismatic, this unremarkable, because that's what it was. He didn't bomb. He didn't lose the debate necessarily. I would say that he didn't. I think he had a very average, mediocre performance, which is arguably worse because less people are going to be talking about him. They're going to be talking about all of these other people. And because of that, DeSantis very may well not only fall behind Vivek in third, he may fall to fourth or fifth. And his campaign is in utter shambles. And the donors are sitting there scratching their heads saying, who are we going to donate money to next? It's probably going to be somebody like Pence. I don't know. Either way, you saw the abortion debacle. Nikki Haley just completely going, what is she even pandering to at this point with her answer? She was just attacking the Republican stance from every single facet. Oh, I'm pro-life, but we need to stop. We need to do this thing. We need to do this thing. We need to stop demonizing abortion. It's like you're on a Republican debate stage. Know who your voters are. I'm not saying pull a Tudor Dixon because that's not electorally viable either to say that. But what you're doing is you're making yourself seem weak. You're bending over backwards. If you're going to bend over backwards to the left on that issue, what's to say you're not going to bend over backwards on every issue? She already does that on the globalist issues. On immigration, she's the worst. On foreign policy, objectively, on every single issue. Nikki Haley, make no mistake about it, is a globalist. And she really showed her ass tonight. Make no mistake about it. On top of that, you saw Vivek go out there, and there was another exchange he had with Mike Pence. Mike Pence was also attacking Vivek. Oh, you're too young, and you don't understand it. And I'm sick and tired of these people. They wonder why young people don't vote for the Republican Party. And all they do is they just attack people who, I don't know, happen to be under the age of 40 because they happen to understand better at the accelerated rate that it's going what the current national decline is, especially in this digital social media age. And Vivek is saying, no, we live in a dark time. You know, you just tweaking certain things about the government that are remedial is not going to change that. And then Pence is blowing up at him. It's like, what exactly, or what are you doing? Like, you're just causing yourself to lose more support because this is the same thing we saw in 2016. Trump said we live in a dark time. We have a nation that's in decline. Immigration's out of control. Politicians in the Republican Party and Democrat parties are both stabbing the American people in the back. And that's very true. And seeing Vivek go out there, and even though, like I said, I don't support him over Trump, I don't agree with him on everything, but it was refreshing to see that you still had that outsider presence. And in the ideal world for the GOP, you wouldn't have that outsider presence, for one, and for two, they wouldn't have Trump either. And you saw that. That is the GOP of 2012, not even 2012 at least. You had Ron Paul out there, even though he was very old at the time, and he's even older now. But you look at the GOP right now, without Donald Trump, without Trump's wing of the party, without the America First type of people, without J.D. Vance, Hawley, Vivek to a certain extent, they are cooked. They are done. Why would anybody want to vote for this party exactly? Why? What do they exactly conserve? They conserve nothing. They don't conserve the American dream. They bend over backwards on every single social issue, even to a room full of their own Republican voters. And this is a problem. And you're seeing that there. Donald Trump won the debate by not being there because the GOP without Trump is a disaster. It is absolutely nothing. And I think that that's kind of what it proved tonight when you're watching these people. And another thing with the DeSantis thing, whenever they brought up the would you vote for Trump if convicted, the dude looked around the room to see if other people were raising their hands before he went like this. Very low energy, typical theme of the night. And you could say that's nitpicking, that's not fair, but I think it is fair because why is he looking around? He's not his own man. He doesn't have his own opinions. He decided to see if the coast was clear for him politically to do so, and then he did it. I think that's the act of a coward, a low energy coward. They call Trump a coward for not debating when he's 40 points ahead. I think the coward is somebody that can't come up with his own political positions to save his life, and that's exactly what Ron DeSantis did. Everything he said was off a note card, and I'll admit it was not the worst performance ever. He didn't have a lot of gaffes. He didn't stammer around there. He barely talked, though, which probably saved that from happening, and it was such an unremarkable performance. He's about to lose half of his support in the next 4 weeks at the rate he's going, just like he lost half of his support in the past 4 months. Absolutely brutal. Donald Trump, we could talk about the Tucker interview. I'm sure people are going to send super chats about that. I think we'll get to that in the super chat section. But either way, it doesn't matter. He's on a different playing field. He's playing in a different game. And somehow he's winning despite being not even on Twitter, at least right now, despite him not being at the debate, not being on Fox News, not being on mainstream media. He's winning in the polls by 40 plus points. He's winning, I guess you would say, against Biden in the Electoral College in every single poll that's been released except one for the past 6 months or so, despite being indicted 4 times. So save me the nonsense, save me the bogusness. There's no argument against Donald Trump. And you might say, well, Vivek had a great night. He's a novelty candidate, folks. Some of what he has to say is good. Some of what he didn't say tonight that he believes is not so good. Personally, I think he can be in the cabinet. I don't think he really would want to be VP. I don't know what exactly he's running for. But either way, he had an impressive performance tonight. And if you look at this field and you tell me who I would pick of the people on that debate stage, if Donald Trump could not run for some reason and nobody else would jump in, yeah, Vivek probably would be that choice because at least he comes off as authentic. And even though we may have disagreements with him here and there on a couple of things, it seems like he's more genuine, more open to change his mind about certain things. Whereas the other people, these are unreachable career DC politicians. And Vivek was the perfect attack dog stand-in for Trump because he acted like Trump to a certain extent. You might say it was dollar store 2016 Trump. It doesn't matter. He did his job, and he did it well. So he gets credit from me where it's due. So that's pretty much about it. On top of that, he said another great thing that I wrote down here. He said these people will blindly attack Trump, like Chris Christie. They blindly attack Trump without a vision of their own for the country. They're attacking Trump, but what do they bring to the table? Absolutely nothing. Recycled, conservative ink, GOP establishment talking points that we've heard for decades upon decades that have never amounted to shit except us losing our country even further sometimes when these people are in power, even as opposed to our opposition. So it's absolutely true. They don't have a vision for the country. Their only conviction is we oppose Trump. If DeSantis does something or a lot of these other people do something, because a lot of them probably are going to be moving to these other people pretty soon because DeSantis is just that unremarkable. It's like, it doesn't matter. There will be conservative and attack Trump from the right on some things. If Trump gets the nomination and they stay never Trumpers and Trump gets in there and starts enacting legislation that's authentically conservative like he did his first time around, you see these people, just like we saw with people like Bill Kristol, who initially opposed Trump. Oh, he's not a real conservative. And then when Trump goes in there and he passes the pro-life legislation or the pro-whatever legislation, they'll oppose that too for some weird whatever reason. Because it's not about trying to stand up for principle or Trump is insufficient. It's about trying to take down Trump. The same nonsense, oh, Trump can't win. Nikki Haley talks about electability. She won by 4 points in 2010 in deep red South Carolina because she was that awful of a candidate. If she goes out there, she would lose the state of Ohio. She is that awful. She is a train wreck. She does not resonate with the American people whatsoever in the places that she needs to win the election. She probably loses Arizona and possibly even Georgia as well. She's that unlikable. Oh, wow, you got 1% more of suburban women. It's not going to really save the turnout drop-off that you see with all these other people. And she's so inauthentic. She's so fake. Everybody can see it. Even the DeSantis people, they can see it. Although if it was her and Trump, a lot of them would go to her. That's kind of the litmus test for the DeSantis 2024 people that I initially came up with. A lot of those people, especially in the influencer class, all the influencer class for DeSantis, they failed on that. So you're looking at that. Vivek shining on foreign policy, getting attacked by Nikki Haley. Of course, it was brutal, folks. It was a brutal, brutal showing for the GOP. They failed to market themselves effectively. DeSantis lost because he's underwhelming. And this is a good tweet from our good friend, John Doyle, who said, this debate is what your pro-Trump GOP would look like. We can't let it happen. It's true. 100% true. Trump goes out there on Tucker, though. He gets 80, we could refresh and see how many million views now. 88.7. It's going to hit 100 million, probably, maybe even before midnight Central. If not, by midnight Pacific time, it will hit 100 million. Absolutely a brutal showing for the GOP. A win for Donald Trump. Trump won. I would say that DeSantis lost. He didn't fall flat on his face, but he had a big loss because he was so underwhelming. Vivek won just because he provided contrast, even if he was a little goofy at the start, but he recovered himself pretty well. And he did say a lot of good things that needed to be said on that debate stage. And then on top of that, you had a lot of other people in the race that didn't really shine. Chris Christie, I guess because people remembered who he was, that was a victory for him. But he's just like, he's gross, man. Like, is anybody actually unironically supporting this guy? Of course not. Of course not. But that's pretty much it. I mean, I can't really say that somebody like Mike Pence was that much of a winner. The DeSantis people praising him and some of them kind of throwing shade at DeSantis might prove that he might be taking a small W there, but it's not going to win him anything. Nikki Haley took an L, big L on her part. Doug Burgum, nobody really cares. Hutchinson, nobody really cares. Again, just another never Trumper on the side of the stage. That's an L in and of himself. So everybody pretty much took an L. Tim Scott was underwhelming as well. He didn't really move the needle. A lot of people said this would have been his time to shine. I don't even know if he's going to be the one to take over that third place spot. We'll see what happens next debate, though, because there's going to be a debate next month and a debate the month after that. And assuming Trump's numbers don't crater between now and then, Trump's not going to be there either. And Fox's ratings are going to be in the gutter once again. So we're going to get to Super Chats without further ado. We have 20 of them already, so let's speed run these. Arc GPU says, sup there. Yeah, Trump and Tucker was cool on X. He got a lot of views. Shout out to Bob Ramos says, Nikki proves she's a warmonger. Trump was the real winner, but in the actual debate, Vivek showed he's better than Ron. Well, he has more charisma. Ron stammers there because that's what he does. He's a stammering politician who's just like, well, actually, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. His like high-pitched voice. He's wearing the 4-inch heels yet again because he's 5'7". And like Vivek's 5'7" either, but he doesn't like feel the need to compensate like that. And he's just like still on center stage. He may be center stage next debate. I don't know. I don't think he's really going to have a shot at the nomination or give Trump a run for his money, but I'd rather have it be Trump Vivek for the sake of the Overton window than Trump DeSantis or Trump some of these other people. But we'll really have to see. Shout out to Spartan Speedrun. Says, safe to say Trump won the debate. I think he won the ratings game. I think that's really what counts, especially in Trump's mind. Trump is somebody, does he care that much about polls? Not really. Does he care a lot about things like TV ratings? Absolutely. And he'll have this as the mandate. We had 120, when it's all said and done, million people watching. We got more people than the Super Bowl. Like, he could use that as like a talking point. And you could say maybe it's not accurate because it's just like people that skim through it for like 2 seconds, but still doesn't matter. He got the people watching. He got enough people there. He has the mandate. It's over. He won this debate based off of that fact alone. Doesn't even matter what's said in the Trump-Tucker interview. It was a pretty standard Donald Trump interview from what we know. I mean, we could talk about certain things that people super chat them, but other than that, it's like, do we have to go in depth with every little thing Trump said? He touched on enough of the right cylinders. He talked about immigration, foreign policy, attacked Biden effectively at times. Like, yeah, they're still talking about 2020, and it's like we could talk about how that might not be the number one issue heading into 2024, obviously, because we have to win 2024. Trump is in this to win this. Trump said, I can win in 2024, so it just is what it is. But either way, he won tonight big time, folks. He won tonight big time. Brandon Sikora says, why air this if your top candidate's a no-show? I have no faith in the GOP getting the nominee elected because they like to sit there and just dream that this will one day be the GOP. It'll be without Trump. That's your GOP without Trump. Yeah, good luck winning Wisconsin. Good luck winning Pennsylvania. Good luck winning even like Arizona at that point with that like nonsensical whatever the hell that was, because that is not going to win you anything. You hear about electability, these people talking about all the debt and send more money to Ukraine, or maybe we will or maybe we won't, because DeSantis doesn't answer any question. That's not going to move the needle. These people would get cooked by Biden, especially rhetorically. Maybe not Vivek, but it's like I can't see Vivek going out there and winning this nomination. I don't think that he has any shot. And if he did, I still would support Trump just because of the fact that Trump is better on immigration. That's my number one issue. Foreign policy, even though Vivek is really good on it, they're still relatively similar overall. And maybe Vivek could push Trump to the right on policy in that, but Trump has that persona to get it done. I mean, Trump, this 6'2", 6'3" guy going out there negotiating, pushing these world leaders around. I don't know if I could see Vivek doing that. But Vivek definitely has his heart in the right place on foreign policy, I will say, and it's refreshing to see that. And they're like, oh, look at this guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about because he doesn't want to get more Americans killed in these foreign wars. He's some sort of evil, immature, Generation Y radical or whatever they want to call him. It's ridiculous, folks. Absolutely just ridiculous. So it's the way it is. Christopher Laurie says, Pence said we don't have an identity crisis. And that's another thing. We have an identity crisis. What do we stand for? And he's saying that we don't live in a dark era. These people are saying that it's normal that you have all these school shootings because there's this false dichotomy. Oh, we all oppose the left. The left wants gun control. It doesn't mean that it's not a problem. You didn't have this in the 1950s when kids were bringing rifles to high school every day. They didn't have mass shootings then. Like, that's the number one argument against it. We have a problem. We have a pill problem. We have a mental health problem. And Vivek did touch on the right cylinders there. And we have an identity crisis as a nation. And to act like that we don't is ludicrous. And Vivek, I don't think, has the right solution either because his immigration policy is not willing to address it either. But still, when you look at it, these people, these politicians out there, they do not represent the people. They are out of touch with the base, and they wonder why the base doesn't want to vote for them or why they suck at these elections. I don't know. Take a look in the mirror. Just like, honestly, one look in the mirror. Literally one look. It's that simple, folks. It's that simple. They don't want to do it. All right, let's see. Okay, we have a repeat super chat. Actually, but this is a little different. I have no faith in the GOP to get the job done. Why vote at this point? Well, because you're not voting for any of those people. They're not going to be the nominee. But it's true, though. If that's your GOP, why do you expect people that have been voting for Trump to turn out for you? They won't do it. You saw that in the midterms. They'll blame Trump for it because they're that brain dead. They're that tone deaf. They lose. They lose because they suck. They don't know how to turn out voters. Their operation is garbage. And on top of that, they focus on the wrong things and they lose. They fall short every single time. The left is crazy. They run vegetables. They run crazy people. They still win. That's a reflection of you. 100% of the way. Jacob Carter for 20 says, not going to lie with the debate. I'm very mad Israel got addressed and they did denounce how they're treating Christians like crap. Meanwhile, they act like they're super devout Christians. Well, a lot of the evangelicals in the voter base do support Israel for whatever reason. What I will say about that, though, is this notion that we have to keep funding foreign aid at the highest levels to these countries that are not always in lockstep with us and have lower debt to GDP ratios than we do. It's not America first. So Vivek brings that up, and then Nikki Haley gets all mad, and then you have, I think one of the candidates had like a flag. It's like America first, not Ukraine first, not, I know a lot of Republicans and the boomers, they do support Israel, but you have to support America first. We don't need to be sending over millions of billions of dollars a year to these countries when we can't even take care of our own. Even if you want to say it's like a rounding error, it's still very symbolic of where their interests are and how much time and energy they put into these things. Security TV says, I was watching the Trump-Tucker interview. Was there something else going on? Is Fox still a thing? Apparently, their Rumble stream didn't even get 1 million views. Trump's got 90 million plus at this rate on Twitter with Tucker Carlson. JT says, winner to loser. Ramaswamy, DeSantis, Scott, Burgum, Haley, Hutchinson, Christie, Pence. Well, honestly, DeSantis didn't do that poorly, but he was just that unremarkable. The fact that he's number 2 in that list, even if I want to say that that's accurate, which, I mean, we could like do an in-depth analysis of how accurate it is, it's like he was just mid. He was very mid. Everybody else just fell flat on their face. But, I mean, they also appealed to the constituency that DeSantis is like pulling in at the high numbers right now. So, I don't know. I really don't know what the deal is there, but I don't think his numbers are going to go up after this. I think they'll go down. I don't think they're going to crater to like 2% just yet. That might happen. Possibly, if not even probably will. I just don't know when that's going to happen, but Vivek will likely rise. I wonder if he's going to rise because he's taking support away from Trump or from other candidates. I don't think he's taking much from Trump. I think he might take a few points, but I think Vivek actually will take some points away from DeSantis because the people that are in answering these polls saying they support DeSantis, a lot of them are in love with the idea of DeSantis. When they finally get acquainted with DeSantis, they're not exactly a fan because they hear, oh, he's like the Florida's Trump, and like that's actually just not true. He's not Florida's Trump. He's like, okay, a governor that gets things done that the state legislature passes to his desk and has a PR team. And even a lot of that makes it overrated what he's done to a large degree. Sam Harrison says, did you see all the anti-Trump ads on Fox? No, I saw the Rumble stream, but I'm not surprised. Jordan B. says, I'm a fan of Vivek, but however, his issue is making a fortune in pharma, biotech, and the Dems will be clever to use that against him. I do think he won the debate. Well, I do believe that there is, like I said, Vivek's past is not fully vetted. I don't support him over Trump, but he did have a good showing. He absolutely did, and I'm not here to take that away from him tonight in any way, because he killed it. He didn't say anything I disagreed with tonight. I mean, if we're talking about the immigration issue, yeah, I'll say things I disagree with. He supported TPP on a Twitter space. That's unforgivable. And you talk about electability, that's not helping out. Because if I attack DeSantis for his trade stances, I'm going to attack Vivek for his too, because it's not about just a personality contest. But what is true is that he killed it tonight. He went out there and he skewered everybody. And he was on point. Chris Christie thought he got the kill shot. He said, oh, well, give me a hug if I'm Obama. And it's like, it's true. Like, Obama, you're going to attack, like, spend time in 2023 attacking Obama? Really? Like, what year is this? Is this 2012? They think it is 2012. Because they're spending more time attacking Obama than they are attacking, like, relevant people at certain times. Like, oh, we're going to compare Vivek to Obama. The traits that Vivek shares with Obama is, like, that he's, like, young and allegedly, like, charismatic. Are those like even bad traits that he shares with Obama? Like, is that supposed to be a win? And then Vivek clapped back and said, are you trying to get me elected? Because that's exactly what Chris Christie did. His like moment of unity with Obama during Hurricane Sandy, the big hug, that was something that, as we know, helped Obama to some extent. I'm not saying that Chris Christie single-handedly elected Obama. Mitt Romney was a god-awful candidate. But still, it definitely did not hurt Obama, and his response to Sandy moved the needle a little bit, and Chris Christie aided and abetted that the whole time. So that's the way it is. Sam Harrison says, I feel like Nikki Haley got really emotional. She's trying to appeal to like the suburban wine mom. They vote Democrat. She doesn't understand that. The fact she worked in Trump's administration is going to turn off a lot of these people. And for the people that are like, oh, well, Trump is the problem, they approve. Suburban white women, downfall of the country, we know. They approve of Joe Biden, a majority. They're the only demographic, sub-demographic that is white, that approves of Joe Biden, suburban white women, especially millennials and the younger suburban white women. So how exactly are these people going to elect a Republican when they already approve of Biden? Because Trump is not the main issue. Trump may have accelerated some of the trends, but he's not the real reason why those voters have moved away. And the GOP is appealing to voters, or trying to appeal to voters, that they're never going to get. They're never going to win again unless there's another crazy realignment that's going to take a long time to take shape, but I don't see it happening. So Cameron Campbell says, I'm 20 years old. Drafting age, there's only 2 candidates that are not pro-war in Ukraine, Vivek and Trump. They're the only 2 that have my vote. I know I'm not alone on this issue. No, of course not. I think it's a big issue. Politicians on the right that are shilling for these foreign wars like it's 2004. They don't understand the realignment that's going on. Then they lose elections and they wonder why they're losing elections. Interesting. Did you see DeSantis' hesitation to support stuff only after Vivek supported it? I noticed Rhino Ron did this twice. That's because Vivek and Trump are the only politicians that get it. Yeah, most Republicans are sympathetic to MAGA or America First ideals. They are. A lot of those that were vehemently anti-MAGA, anti-America First, they left the party years ago. They did. This is a realignment in full swing, and they don't get it at all. They just don't get it. Christopher Laurie says, honestly, watching this debate, is it 2024 or 2004? Exactly. Leon Alfaro says, Judas Pence is a POS. Give Christie a burger. Trump 24. Exactly. I don't know if people heard about the 6.7 magnitude earthquake that took place in Milwaukee this morning, but that was just Chris Christie's plane landing at Mitchell International. John Waffles says, Christie and Hutchinson are the biggest clowns of the night. Exactly. You don't get to have that last name Hutchinson and not be epic. Okay, you're ruining Aiden Hutchinson for me, this governor of Arkansas. You can't do that. John Cordisco's Corner says, watch Tucker interviewing Trump. What got me is how relaxed and clear Trump seemed like. Is Trump the stress proof? Very impressed. Well, you talk about this like divide and Trump is like not appealing to these voters that are upset with his personality. But whenever they see Donald Trump going out there and talking recently, even when he's like being a little bombastic at the CNN town hall, he's still measured. He's calm. He's collected, and he seems on point. Relatively so, especially compared to not only what's in the White House right now, obviously, but compared to the people on that debate stage. So it's like he is kind of that guy that's just like the more chill option, the more reasonable choice, not these other wild cards that we don't know what's going to happen when we trot them out there. So JT says DeSantis, then Ramaswamy, then Trump. I disagree. I think you have to flip that on its head a little bit, but Lenny's Eye says Kennedy 24. Well, good luck with that. He's not going to go anywhere. I tell people this. RFK, he's a Democrat that opposes the current orthodoxy of whatever the Democrats stand for. That's not going to go over very well in such an establishment-friendly party as it is now. He'd probably do a lot better if he ran as a Republican. He'd probably be polling a lot higher than Vivek at this point. Leonardo Camillo for $100. I don't know what currency that is, but it is a red super chat. That would mean that is up there. Thank you for the big donation. Says the Yaf boy asked about climate change. That was straight from the series Conservatives who conserve nothing. And I think that, and I will say this. I do think that we need to conserve the environment as well. We need clean air. We need clean water. You don't want to live in an environment where you let these corporations run rampant with pollution or whatever. I don't think that's conservative either. But this notion that, we're gonna do the diet Green New Deal. We're gonna do whatever the left does. We're gonna embrace environmentalism. It's like, no, we're not gonna do that. We support fossil fuels. We support, obviously, initiatives to improve the environment per se, but we don't support pouring all this money and resources into these programs, like Vivek said, that are causing a lot more casualties and other things and problems than the supposed climate change is already doing. So I think Trump in 2020 on the debate stage against Biden in the second debate, the debate he absolutely destroyed Biden in, He had the right answer regarding the environmental stuff, but it's like, yeah, they don't conserve very much. They adopt the left's language. They don't try to counter it with anything that's going to win over people, and they lose. So that's the way it works. Arc GPU says, did anyone notice they kind of dressed like a Dollar Tree Donald? I don't know. I didn't really pay attention to the dress being coordinated. That's just how they dress for the debates, I guess. Frederick Crutchfield says, Trump or bust. It's a fight for the soul of a nation. It's light or darkness, and I won't be convinced otherwise. Let's do all our part day by day. Well, we have to vote for Trump. There's no option. You saw that debate stage. It's like Vivek's not going anywhere. If he starts polling above 30%, we can have that conversation. I'm still backing Trump because Trump's better on the issues. I'm not going to lie, Vivek did shine on that stage, though. He's better than everybody else on that stage, and that speaks volumes with all the blind spots I've noted that he has policy-wise. Cameron Campbell says, can we talk about Chris is so fat he's wider than the podium? Well, it's actually fit to stage. He was actually outside, and he had his own podium. They actually hologrammed him in small enough to fit inside of the Pfizer Forum. Not a lot of people know this, but it's true. Shout out to Leonardo Camillo for the extra 2. LinnerX52 for 50. Thank you for another large donation. Says, you have the best, most honest analysis. Wish I could stay up to hear more. Probably won't be up to hear you read this, but thanks for what you do. Well, thank you. You can always watch the replay as well, but I do appreciate the super chat. Thank you very much, LinnerX52. MS1711 says, Vivek is my choice over Trump, though I'd vote for both. I think that's fair. I think a lot of people feel that way because Vivek is younger or he's more active on the campaign trail. But either way, a lot of the Vivek supporters, I like these people, a lot of them. They're not foaming at the mouth, never Trumpers like the DeSantis camp. They're not insufferable like the DeSantis camp. They support Vivek for whatever reason. I think they should support Trump, but either way, it is what it is. I think they're decent people. The DeSantis people you run in contact with on Twitter, on wherever, mainly Twitter, these people are insufferable, and I think that they honestly have driven a lot of people away from Ron DeSantis. They're not driving people to their candidate, not like he really had anything to stand on other than PR in the first place, and now that he's being attacked, he's not fighting back effectively, and they're acting like the Cruz-Rubio combo back in 2016, and that's kind of what DeSantis sounded like on the debate stage, a lower energy Cruz-Rubio combo, except Chris Christie's not going to attack him because Chris Christie didn't actually care at the time that Marco Rubio was being robotic, because if he did, he would attack DeSantis for being robotic, but he didn't do that. Vivek was the one that did that, and then Christie in turn attacked Vivek. It's politicians versus the one, semi-outsider. The semi-outsider went in there and just completely cleared the field. He cleaned up everybody that was being completely honest with themselves. And you look at the poll we put out, Vivek is in there with 74%. I think a lot of the people saying 15% other, they're saying Trump won the debate, which I think is fair. I thought of doing that as an option, but I just wanted to show people how overwhelmingly Vivek would poll. But either way, 2,000 votes, I think that's enough. It's a higher sample size than most polls. Ike's Political Minutes is, what's the probability Trump is jailed? I have no idea. Cameron Campbell says Hutchinson has the Israeli flag pin. Yeah, what country are you debating in exactly? This is America. You obviously, you see the Democrats do it with the Ukraine flag pin, and that's cringe. And it's okay, well, you're saying you support Israel. Okay, all Republicans, for the most part, support Israel. Wow, groundbreaking finding there. But it's not going to move the needle in his favor. It's a lot of people are just saying to themselves, why does he have another country flag on his suit jacket? It's bizarre. You're at the Republican debate. Doug Burgum had the American flag. At least Doug Burgum, credit where it's due. Based Cato says, how did the GOP debate continue when there's a 6.7 magnitude earthquake? I have no idea. I think that it probably was held a little bit away from the airport. So Eaters of Dead says, what about Vivek being Soros funded? I mean, he had ties with them, I guess, a while back. And that's like I said, his past is not vetted. And people are going to be like, well, Trump did business deals with Soros. But it's like, you're a New York businessman. You're dealing with other New York businessmen. That's par for the course. He was a Democrat at the time. I don't think he dealt with Soros to advance Soros's political leanings. I think he dealt with Soros on some remedial business deal. And I don't know what Vivek dealt with Soros with. It should probably be looked into. But either way, or he begged him for a scholarship. It's a little shady. I don't know. But either way, it doesn't change that he was the guy that people hated today, in this day and age, tonight on that debate stage. And that's where I'm giving him credit. I don't support Vivek for president, but it is what it is. So the DM Productions, his thoughts on the talk about Trump being disqualified to be president due to the insurrection charge. It's not going to happen. They're going to try to take him off the ballot, which again, if this was some plot to raise his poll numbers in the primary but sink him in a general like we heard from a lot of the DeSantis people, why exactly is he being taken off? They're trying to take him off the ballot. It doesn't add up. They're crazy people. They're mentally unhinged. They're insane, a lot of these people. On the other side of things, the GOP establishment, the people that carry water for these people for no reason. They don't benefit these people for the most part. I don't know why unless they're paid, which a lot of them are, paid influencers. We know they do exist. I just disappeared again. We disappeared. It's over. We're back, though. We're back. Let's see. All right. There we go. We're back. We didn't go anywhere. We didn't leave. I hit the back button. Common occurrence. But nevertheless, we are back. So let's see. More super chats. Sam Madsen for 5. Hypothetically, how would Vivek do in the general? I don't know. I'd have to see some polling. A lot of people don't know who he really is, so he probably is polling low right now, head to head. It really would depend. Like I said, I think his message is, for the most part, in the right, but he does have those policy blind spots. Like the H-1B thing, that's not America first. The trade policy is not America first. So those are blind spots he has. But the vision, like the American dream stuff that he's laying out there, that would help him. That would keep him viable. So I don't know. It would depend on how well he would do in a primary. If he actually does well in a primary or starts polling higher, maybe he would actually have a shot, but I don't know. Also, he'll likely get attacked by Trump if he starts to rise up and is actually in the 20%, 30% range, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I do think a lot of the Trump base is friendly with him. I will say that. So if Vivek does actually eat into Trump's margins, those people will come home hands down for the general. Cameron Campbell says, I was watching Fox. They had a support Ukraine and TikTok ad. That shows a lot. Exactly. Jason Christie says, the dumbest quip I've gotten about DeSantis is, bro, he got so much done as governor. He had a friendly state house, Senate, and Supreme Court for his entire tenure, and they weren't constantly trying to impeach him. Exactly. Trump did a lot. I'm not saying it was perfect. I'm not saying that he couldn't have done things differently, but he did a lot. And these people were praising him during his presidency for doing a lot. But now that they can get rid of him, or they think they can get rid of him, he was the worst president ever, they're saying. Some are saying even Biden's better, because they're morons. They're mentally unhinged. A lot of them, like I said, are bought off. Cameron Campbell, do you think Vivek or Trump could win the Gen Z men if they talk about the draft? I don't think the draft is in a lot of people's minds right now. But I will say that opposing foreign intervention and boots on the ground in all these places and not causing any new wars, that definitely does help among Generation Z voters or people that are concerned about the draft because they don't want to be deployed. So, Base Katos' thoughts on the Freedom Caucus not caving on the 2024 budget. They threatened a government shutdown if Democrats try to push another pork-filled bill. Well, I mean, either way, it's like they were acting like they weren't going to cave initially, and then they passed the bill with some support. So I don't know. It really depends. If there's a shutdown that doesn't really help Biden, I mean, we could talk about it. The Republicans are causing it. Well, the Democrats caused the shutdown under Trump. It didn't help Trump. Republicans were in the majority in the House. You had the Obama shutdown. I don't think they're going to have the votes because it only takes, 5 people to come aboard. So I don't think the Freedom Caucus is going to be that like bulwark because they don't have that much power in the grand scheme of things, especially with the razor thin majority. Eaters of Dead says, how do you like Pence saying when I'm president, I'll make sure he gets convicted for those crimes, meaning Trump, then I'll see Trump still speak nice to him. Well, Trump should take the high road with Pence. I think that kind of changes the narrative because Trump's like, he's a nice guy. I like Mike Pence, but he's attacking me. That doesn't mean Trump's going on the offensive like they always say. Trump's kind of positioning himself in a place where it's like, I pity you. Look at you down at 5%. I'm going to be the next president. You're not going to be my running mate. You're never going to be my running mate. You're never going to be VP again. You're never going to be president. I think that's fine. Pence has really shown his true colors on this campaign trail, and I'm not just talking about this debate. So, let's see. Wholesome DJ Aftershock with the recurring Rufus parody saying, low 1Q Trump cultist incel Buffett rep couldn't understand high 1Q Korean Rufus. Totally hilarious, sarcastic joke that only high 1Q people understand. And that's another thing, like this is a parody for those who don't know of this, like these people on Twitter who like act like, oh, well, we're highly educated. We prefer DeSantis. Trump is low IQ. DeSantis is high IQ. Well, if he's so high IQ, why isn't he winning? Why isn't he doing better in the polls if he's not high IQ? Why has he lost half his support in the past 4 months if he's so high IQ? Why isn't he owning the debate stage if he's so high IQ? Because he's not high IQ, and his supporters are delusional. They're not high IQ either. That's just the way it works. So Nick Roaming Mean Gene the Morning Star says Vivek is too pro-merit-based immigration, not good. I agree, 100%. And I'd like to hear his answer. Would you pass the RAISE Act even, which would lower the unskilled, even though it keeps the skilled, which I'm not a fan of. Ultimately speaking, I think it takes tech jobs away from middle-class native-born Americans, and Trump talked about this in the Breitbart survey they gave out the other day. Trump hit the nail on the head on immigration. Vivek on H-1Bs, he's murky. It's not America First policy, but and I'm just not a fan of it. Would he do better on immigration than Biden? Yes, even compared to some other Republicans, maybe. But there's so much we don't know about what he really stands for on immigration policy for me to say, okay, well, this guy is a suitable alternative to Trump for me because I don't view him as such. Jacob Barden says, how can we talk about age limits for politicians and continue to vote Trump? I think Vivek's the guy. That being said, I'd obviously vote for Trump over Biden. I don't think they were talking about age limits. I don't believe in age limits. I think there's 95-year-old people that would be better presidents than most people in their 30s and 20s right now, objectively speaking. I think mental acumen is important. I think people should have their cognitive abilities truly tested. And I think if you look at somebody like Biden, I don't think he's fit to serve because he's mentally out there. But, you know, Trump, he's old. He'll be there for 4 years. He'll probably be just fine. I'm not really worried about that. But I do agree that the next Republican nominee in 2028, I would like to see them below the age of 50. I really would. Because I do think you have a problem. And I don't think Trump is somebody that doesn't reach younger people well. I think he does compared to other Republicans. But, you know, a lot of these people that are in the running, like Nikki Haley, Mike Pence, they're younger than Trump, but would I vote for Trump over them? Absolutely not. Or absolutely I would. I wouldn't vote for them over Trump for other reasons. The age is not the deal breaker is what I'm saying. Would I prefer Trump to be 40 years old? Absolutely. 100% of the way. But I think cognitive ability matters a lot more than, oh, well, this guy is like 90, so he can't serve or whatever. It's not exactly the way I view things. John Waffle says, do you see Vivek as a future contender? I mean, he has to keep proving himself. Like I said, I'm not a fan of where he stands in immigration or trade, but he did great tonight. He gets a lot of credit. I think that he'll have a role in some cabinet at least. Eric from Wisconsin says Vivek didn't get Soros funding. He got a grad school scholarship from a foundation of a Soros relative that was long deceased. Nothing to do with Georgie. Do better, people. Do your research. I mean, and it's true. There's always this like thing where you look into it and it's like, oh, well, this isn't like politically relevant. And it's true. Trump's deal that involved Soros 25, 30 years ago is not political either whatsoever. It did not deal with supporting globalism to Trump's knowledge or mine. It dealt with the typical New York business deal. There's been so many of them done. I mean, that's the way it is. Garrett Vranikar says, if Russia wins the war with Ukraine, how would that affect the election? Would Biden lose like McCain in 2008? Well, it definitely would become more unpopular. And I think that as time has gone on, Ukraine, some people are saying, oh, they're winning. Like, are they the clear victors? Not necessarily, because this is the thing they have to keep bringing up, and they keep having to run cover. It's honestly something that is going to become unpopular. Initially, it's like a lot of people, even on the right, are saying, well, it's to protect America. They view it through like a more patriotic lens. And then as war goes on, it's not really helping us out. Obviously, you're pushing, like Vivek said, you're pushing Ukraine into the hand, or you're pushing Russia into the hands of China. You're creating the number one alliance against us. It's like sometimes you have to be friendly with countries that you don't like or may not like you because you have to get things done. I think Trump's foreign policy with Russia was on point, but what did they do? The establishment, the military-industrial complex, they said he was a Russian asset because he went out there and he did things a little differently, and he was on good terms with Putin, not like being his best friend, still being stern with him. On policy, he passed some pretty tough on Russia bills, arguably the most of our lifetime that we've seen, but still, it's crazy. Eaters of Dead said he got $900K for school, 2 mil plus. Total Eric from Wisconsin, correcting the record, says no, it was $90K for a grad school, not 2 mil. Stop. I don't know what the numbers are. Either way, I don't think it's my number one gripe with Vivek. Blues basis says GOP donors to draft Peter Meyer as Ron Dips. Okay. Absolutely not. No. Speaking of Michiganders that got completely screwed, Perry Johnson should have been there. He met the criteria. He landed in Milwaukee. They said you couldn't get on that debate stage. That's just cruel. They don't like outsiders. They don't like you if you're in the club. Vivek is lucky that he's polling as high as he was, or he would not have been there tonight. So it really just shows it's the same thing we saw 2016 to now. You're in the club. You're doing just fine. You're not in the club. Oh, well. It's not going to end well for you on the debate stage or trying to get in with the RNC. So that's the way it is. And honestly, Trump wouldn't have been able to get in based on the fact that he didn't sign the pledge, even if he wanted to debate. But honestly, I think that if he did want to debate, he would have signed the pledge. And if not, they would have probably still been able to have to let him in because ratings are king. And Trump showed that. Let's actually refresh the thing here. Let's see. Oh, he's at 94.1 million views. 94.1 million. That is insanity right there. He's going to hit 100 million. Shout to Robbie France for the 5. Michael Williams says, what do you think of the political future of Vance, future VP or president? I think he could be either. I think Vance would be great on the national stage and definitely a hell of a lot better than anybody out there tonight. And I do think he'd be better than Vivek, by the way. But still, Vance would be awesome. Greg Berhalter says thoughts on ASA's stance on comp science in schools. I actually didn't catch that part. Must have been in the bathroom or something. But I don't care. I really don't care. When I was watching, I did watch some of the ending or some of the part of the latter half of the debate on Rewind on 1.5x, and I did skip over certain times when he was talking because he's so irrelevant. I don't have to hear what he has to say. I heard enough. Of what he had to say. Guy's polling at 1%. He's a never Trump shill, not moving the needle. Everybody hates him. He's a laughing stock clown show. So let's see. Cameron Campbell says, would have loved to see Larry Elder tonight. Well, like I said, a lot of the outsider types, they didn't get on the stage. Wonder why. Christopher Laurie for 5 says Pence, Haley, and the neocons' obsession to destroy Russia is unhinged. They hate one country so much that it's not really our enemy anymore since the 80s. Well, it's not the 1980s. It's not the 90s. They're not communists. They're not Soviets. They're not the same country. Are they friendly with us? Not necessarily. Do they have our best interests in mind? Not at times. I don't really believe they always do, but either way, it's not Russia propaganda to say that they're not our number one enemy, that we don't have really any business to intervene in this conflict. And if Russia wants certain parts of Ukraine that are, ethnically Russian, that ethnic Russians are being mistreated in, and they want those lands back, and if you give them the lands back and everything's cool, that, we wouldn't be able to go on about our lives, it's like, what's exactly wrong with you? I don't see the problem with that. So It's quite ridiculous. And you could say, well, you don't know the ins and outs of foreign policy. It doesn't matter even at that point. You don't know this little thing, or you don't know this little thing. They were doing the same thing to Vivek. Either way, Vivek is right. It's not going to end well. It's not going to end well if we keep getting involved in these endless conflicts, especially when you're pushing Russia into the big enemy of this country that everybody agrees is going to be a much larger problem than Russia in China. If you create that alliance, we're all going to be screwed. So that's the way it is. Milky Way Gaming's his opinion of Andrew Tate. I've given my opinion before. I'll give it again. I think he's a net positive. I've said this before. I don't agree with him on everything. I mean, there's certain things that he props up, about his lifestyle that I don't support, obviously. But compared to other people in the sphere of like role models for men or whatever in the culture, it's like you have a lot of people, men that aren't even men. You have like people like Dylan Mulvaney out there. You've got all kinds of these crazy people that are propped up as like the left's cultural icons. And Andrew Tate's obviously a lot better than those people, 100% of the way. Is he perfect? No, not necessarily. But either way, I do think he's the target of the regime as well, for obvious reasons, because he does teach young men how to be independent or successful. So I'm pro to an extent with Tate. I think there are better role models. I think we need to give young men better role models overall. And the fact that Andrew Tate is like supposedly one of the better ones in the general public kind of speaks more of a volume to the general public than it speaks to Andrew Tate himself. But that's the way I see it. But it is what it is. Let's see, any more super chats? We're over an hour in. We'll go for another 8 minutes, guys. Another 8 minutes. So if you guys want to send in more super chats, feel free. This will be the last call. We'll get to any last loose ends. We'll touch base on any final thoughts about the debate, anything about the Trump-Tucker interview. Feel free to send them through. Other than that, we still have 1,500 people in the live chat, so people in chat talking about DeSantis dodging questions. That's true. You can never get a straight answer out of the guy either, because why? He was repeating the same talking points that he was fed by his own campaign staff, the same insufferable people on Twitter, by the way, that we're always dealing with. They were writing the answers just like they wrote his answers for the Breitbart survey. It was written by his press secretary, Brian Griffin, not the Family Guy dog. They spell it differently. It's with a Y, Brian Griffin with a Y. But they write the answers. But how do we even know this is what he has to say if it's written by some spokesperson who allegedly runs a prominent fake account on Twitter? They have a similar voice. I don't know if it's the same guy. Either way, that guy that does run that account, the Max account or whatever it's called, he's close to the DeSantis camp as well. So either way, I don't think it really makes a difference if that's him or not, but still might be. Just shows how these people are. Cammy Cromby's thoughts on the Rational Mail. I don't know much about that. I've heard of it. I haven't really kept tabs on all this manosphere type of stuff. I know it's making kind of a comeback culturally, which, like I said, is some sort of a net positive. But this is really what happens when you don't have enough like positive male influence, and you have people like Andrew Tate that rise up for better or worse. I think that a lot of it is better. You're teaching people how to make money. If you're doing that, I think that's good. If you're teaching people how to, talk to women, I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily in and of itself. I mean, you're going to have to do that in order to, find a wife, make children. I do think it's kind of from a little bit more of a hedonistic perspective than I would like, obviously, but you do have to have positive male influence out there, people that are, fitness gurus. You're going to have to learn how to work out. How are you going to, build a good physique that you'd like to have? How do you get stronger physically? How do you, manage your time better? You talk about self-improvement as well. Just how are you going to get things done? How are you going to become successful? That's important stuff right there. That's important stuff overall, regardless of whoever the vessel is that's delivering that to people. Absolutely. I'm not really keeping tabs on it 100% of the way. Some of the people in that sphere, it's a very wide sphere. Some are better than others, obviously. But what can I say? Jadit McSwag says Pence bringing up Trump. Pence, okay, I'll vote Trump. Exactly. Like, he's trying to take credit for things under Trump, but he's also side swiping Trump with these subtle jabs. It's tiring, folks. It's really tiring. Art GPU says, did you notice they dress similar to Trump? That might be subtle. I don't know if that's intentional. Maybe they pick up on certain things. That's not really my biggest concern with the debate, though. Derek Roberts says, you think Trump still has a good chance? Absolutely. I covered this in my last video. But winners and losers, I think we know who the winners are. I think it's Trump and Vivek. The losers, everybody else. Because nobody really shined. I mean, you look at somebody like Ron DeSantis, he had an opportunity to actually establish himself as like the front runner of that field if he's really the number two. But he took a back seat, and it didn't really make him look good. And his campaign will cope. Oh, he's reserved. He's presidential. Really? Like, the average voter's not going to see it that way. They're going to see it as just some guy in the middle of the stage that barely talked. I mean, some people might see it that way. Maybe his own campaign, but his own campaign's been wrong about literally everything to the point where why does it matter what they have to say? Why do we care what they have to say? I don't know. Eaters of Dead says, thanks for Jordan Peterson for standing up to those fascists in Canada. He's on the front lines for freedom and liberty. Be so easy for him to run. Well, I have no idea how that would go. I think he's pretty busy with his cushy media job position, wherever it may be. I think he's at the Daily Wire. I could be wrong about that. But either way, what is true is you have this debate stage. You have a bunch of dinosaurs who don't know what's going on. They don't understand the real problems that resonate with the American public, and they're all losers, and they're going to lose to Trump, and if they were to beat Trump, they would lose to Biden. Yes, Vivek was the exception to the rule in terms of people that stood out, but still, he's one guy on the 8-person stage, and he's not perfect either on policy, even if he had a good night. So, our Sizzle Rap says, do you think Karen Taylor Robeson would have a chance in the GOP primary? Absolutely not. She's supporting Democrats because, oh, well, Carrie Lake opposes them, I must too. She's bitter. She's evil, quite frankly. When you look at her immigration policy, she was fine with making illegal aliens pay in-state tuition in Arizona. She went off the rails. She can't win a primary. That's why she's not running for Senate, because she'd lose the primary. And even if not, she'd lose the Senate race as well, the three-way race. Cami Crombie says, thoughts on the low marriage rate? I think it's a problem. I think you look around, the American dream is dead. And that's what Trump said in his announcement speech in 2015. And it's 100% true. You have a country that does not live by the principles that kept it together for so long. Like I said, we want the country, not maybe in every single facet, but in many ways that our grandparents gave up. And how are you going to restore that? What's your vision for America? How are you going to bring back the American dream? They don't answer about that. They talk about debt and taxes all the time. And it's like, okay, I'm not saying you can't mention it once, but if you're talked about, or you're asked a question about what really needs to change in our society, and the first thing you go to is that, it just shows where their focus is. It's just appealing to donors. It only appealed to their donors. If Donald Trump was there, not even saying that he'd have the 100% picture-perfect response on every single issue, but he'd have the best responses compared to what was there. Maybe Vivek might have edged him out in a couple of topics, but either way, I think Vivek liked to use his time to shine there. So it's just the way that went, and it's the way it's going to go. A post-Trump GOP is going to be awful. But thankfully, you will have people that come around in 2028. The bench gets open, it gets wider, and you will have people rise up and shine. And it's mainly going to be the people that oppose the current status quo of the GOP, the political class. They're going to take the mantle, and that's going to be a very good thing. So we're going to end it in 1 minute. We'll end it in 1 minute, but it was a great stream, guys. We had over 1,000 people in chat, and it just kind of shows we're back. The election season, we're in full swing, and it's going to be a fun few months leading up to Iowa. It's going to be even more fun when we get into the meat of the primary cycle. So, Mr. Jimmy, this might be the last super chat of the night. Says, what does the GOP polling look like past debate or post the debate? like I said, I think DeSantis does not rise up. He did not have a remarkable performance. He needed one. He did not get it. If anything, he falls. Vivek rises, even if it does mean eating into some of Trump's margin, but not by a lot of it. And then you might see Pence rise among the establishment crowd, or we'll see what happens between him, Haley, and Scott. Either way, I don't know. But still, we'll wait and see. Make sure you guys like the stream. Subscribe to the channel, by the way. Hit the bell. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. I will see you guys with a video tomorrow. Red Eagle, out.